Slurp right through the mic.
Do it. Get a beverage advertisement.
Or was it a bong hit?
You'll never know. This is an audio format, friends. You'll never know.
We'll be clear about 10 minutes from now.
Depends on how spaced out we sound. Hey, man.
What's happening?
How are you?
What it is?
Guys, I'm sorry I'm late.
You know what? I'm not.
You know what? We're not. We've had weeks, both of us.
Also, whoever said I hope it's not about glitter when I said that the episode is coming
I
in 2
did
days.
not see that comment.
Kindly fuck yourself.
I don't understand what the implication is there.
I think it was taking shots at us for putting up a Patreon episode that 1 week where we couldn't record an episode.
Oh, I see. Oh, they're saying it'll be out a couple of days late, and they're saying, I hope you don't put out a glitter episode.
You make 250 of something, and then I will roast it.
Yeah. 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 You talk for 400 hours.
I think maybe you should try a couple more hours. You fucking I fucking banging nuts with the rusty.
Excuse me? What? I'm sorry. Where did that just come from? Is this a reference?
Yeah. The Method Man skit from the first Wu-Tang record.
Oh man, yes.
And just
been a really long time since I've heard that.
It's okay. That scared the fuck out of me the first time I heard it. It really made an impression on me.
It sounds like it. It's stuck in your head this long.
Oh, you want to talk about aliens again?
I mean, yeah.
All right, tight.
We probably should.
Oh, fuck.
What happened?
I forgot to load up the owl sounds.
I got your back. I texted you this. I'll just be like, the whole time, and that'll be our all.
I think I probably still have them in here somewhere.
Oh, wait.
Right now I got the session from the robot event loaded up.
The robot event?
Mm-hmm, the robot basketball thing.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Wait, when you said I probably have them loaded up, are you saying
no,
that,
like in here? They're on my computer somewhere. I can find them.
The
owl sounds.
I thought you were implying that at an earlier and unrelated date, you had put owl sounds on your computer, and you're like, I'll just go get my owl pack real quick.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Not related to this episode. You had owl sounds on your computer.
Yes.
You've been doing this too long.
Like I said, you guys do 250 or something, and let me know how it goes.
And you'll have owl sounds on your computer
you'll
too.
have something weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say. You'll be happy though. I did bring this one back. Oh shit.
Oh.
Dicks. I do this every week. I fade the music out. And then I forget to turn the volume back up. And then the first time I go to play a sounder, it's not there. But it's
now
appropriate
this
time.
Yeah.
At the robot basketball thing on Sunday.
Yes.
I don't think have we discussed this off of the air yet?
Off of the air or on the air? We talked about it on the air.
No, like since it happened, have you and I talked about this in any capacity?
I think yes, we talked about. No, wait, we didn't, did we?
I don't think so.
Nope, you're right.
Okay,
we did not.
So at one point, there were 4 robotics teams building robots that had to shoot basketballs.
Yes.
David Robinson and Christian Leitner were commentating.
Yes. For
the event.
Phenomenal.
Laserbeak and I were sitting about 3 feet from David Robinson and Christian Leitner for the whole thing.
Saw the photos. You guys were like
amazing.
Neighbors.
Yeah. Leitner thought it was really fun to just talk shit to the Wisconsin team the whole time.
God bless him.
At least once he got up from his seat, like didn't take his microphone with him, and then just walked over there to talk shit just to the 4 kids.
Fantastic.
Not even for anyone else's entertainment.
Love it. Sorry, pissed off Pete and Bomb Camp.
Yeah, whatever.
But we'll support Christian Leitner's Wisconsin shit talk all day long.
At one point, he was trying to get the whole crowd to boo the Wisconsin team.
Wow, bold move, Cotton.
And I looked over there, and I looked down at my pads, and I was like,
got me a real good boo right here.
And I helped Christian Leitner's douchey self boo a bunch of 18-year-olds from Wisconsin because their robot couldn't shoot a basketball well enough.
That, I think you need to write that sentence down, and if you ever wonder if you made it or not in your career, just be like, did that.
I got paid to do that.
And I got paid to do it.
Show me what you got.
Every time a robot was about to shoot. Mm-hmm. And
Strong.
We also
Bringing back some real goodies, man. We haven't dipped back into the treasure trove in a while.
a new one that I don't know how it's going to apply yet, but it's going to apply.
Sure.
With no regard for human life.
Very good. That's
Kevin Harlan.
Kevin Harlan, yeah. I think there's probably going to be,
Anytime we talk about AI, right?
Yes.
Artificial intelligence, not Allen Iverson.
Well, I think actually a decent clarification now that Dad Dog's Ghost blog has also turned into Dad Dog's Ghost basketball.
Yeah, guys, we're just breaking
blog.
down the first round playoff matchups tonight. Sorry, that's why we're late. We had to wait for the matchups to be confirmed.
Man,
I got Clippers in 6. Fuck the Warriors.
That's not going to happen. But
Well,
but I like where your head's
speak
at.
it into existence, right? Isn't that what people say?
Yeah, I think that's what they say. I don't think it's what happens, but I think it's what they say. No, I think it can be AI, but I think it can be for anything related to like an interaction between a non-human thing and a human thing. So like,
alien abductions?
alien abductions,
No regard for human life.
phenomenal. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Great.
Bigfoot walks through your campsite and scares the shit out of everybody.
With no
Yes.
regard for human
None
life.
at all. None at all. I think it's good. I think it's gonna work.
Thank you.
But particularly, I think when we talk about AI, it's gonna land best.
Yeah. I hit that one when the robots beat the humans at the end.
The robots did beat the humans.
It's hard to say. It was a very, very,
Is it?
yeah.
That's doesn't seem. I mean, it's a very quantifiable thing. How many balls went through the hoop?
Most importantly, I asked David Robinson at the end of it if he was available to sub on Smoking Trees and Stroking Threes on Wednesday night, but he
And?
was not.
Damn it!
Yeah.
You know what? I would have paid a lot of money to see.
I thought about just one last thing.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, go.
I considered hitting the damn that boy big when they introduced him, and I didn't want to get off on the wrong foot. I wasn't sure if he was
Yeah.
down for the jokes or not yet. He's a very
Yeah,
serious man.
He's a very serious man. I also don't know if he would appreciate the cursing. I think he's a pretty clean guy.
He is
He's pretty squeaky.
very.
Yeah. So it might not have gone well.
He once talked about how
You could have played it for Leitner though, and Leitner's still a pretty big guy.
still
and
6'11". That's still pretty damn big.
Leitner wouldn't have given a shit. Not a single solitary one.
Oh man.
I would have paid to see David Robinson block a robot
Ooh.
with no regard for robot life, just fucking swatting robot basketballs.
All right. Alien time.
I think it might be. So this is we were originally going to do, I don't know if a two-parter was really right because they weren't connected at all, but
We do what we want here.
we do what we want here. And what we've been doing lately because we want to do it is we've been following the trajectory of the History Channel's most recent drama, very loose documentary drama.
It's not a documentary. It's like a based on true events type of situation.
Yeah, around Project Blue Book. And
Yes.
so our first version of that was the Gorman dogfight we talked about a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Last week we talked about the Lubbock Lights.
Yeah.
And this week we are talking about the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah. / barn owl
Slash barn owl.
on riding a comet.
Riding a comet. God, it's a great image. Someone who's better at digital art than me.
Help us.
Shelby, can you draw me and Spencer riding a comet with a barn owl on our shoulders? That would be sick.
Could it be owl versions of us?
Oh, yes. I mean, it certainly could.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Shelby can do whatever she wants because
Fuck yeah.
she's the shit.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, man.
1952.
1952.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
Mountain Mama.
Yeah.
Country Road. Take me home. Okay. It's all I've exhausted my entire John Denver lyrics knowledge in one fell swoop.
I'm gonna derail us one more time because fuck it, we haven't talked in a while, and you guys get to listen to us catch up.
Because we're 18. We do what we
who's
want.
DJing your wedding?
I don't have one yet.
Oh shit. Okay.
Why?
I don't. You gotta figure that out.
Oh, I know.
That's important.
So we've
I don't
been.
care about any other part of your wedding playing. Everything else will be fine. But who's DJing?
I was like,
I'm sure you guys will handle it.
yeah. No, I like that. Like,
You're gonna have booze
as one
right?
of the few dudes who are gonna be doing some planning in my wedding party, he's like, it'll work itself out. I'm like, no, dude, I need you.
No.
I need you.
No. It'll be fine.
So what we've been doing is we've been really, really highly curating Spotify playlists for different portions of the evening. So we have like a cocktails playlist and a dinner playlist.
You gotta have somebody actually mix though. You can't just run a playlist.
I know. I'm just saying. I think we don't really need to think too hard about who the DJ is because it's going to be like a if you play the chicken dance, I'll cut your head off kind of thing.
Mistake.
All right. Well,
Maybe on your second wedding you'll get it right.
Fuck off.
Next time you'll get it.
I think
Pay somebody pay one of the homies like $400.
I was just going to say between the two of us, we know enough DJs that we will be just fine.
Yeah. Pete and I will just take turns.
Yeah, but then we can't hang out.
Well,
Right.
We just set my turntables up in the corner at my wedding.
There was a rule, for what it's worth, at one of my shout out to Sam. Sam put out there, he's not even engaged yet, but he put out like an edict to his girlfriend that was like, hey, if we get married, my guys get to run like the DJ stand for the whole night. And like that's just how I want it to be.
Go, yeah.
And she's like, I don't care. And he's like, great. Perfect. So yeah, I mean, I want to be able to participate too, which is why it's going to be fun to have one of the homies DJ it.
All right.
Why was that a question that was related to the alien stuff? Was that just something that you had a
started singing
question
John
about?
Denver.
And you're like, who's going to play John Denver at your
I
wedding?
started imagining us drunkenly singing John Denver songs this fall.
I will absolutely sing Take Me Home Country Road with you up north.
West Virginia, September 12th of 1952.
Yeah, let's go there.
Flatwoods, West Virginia. It's like dead center of the state.
It's in the middle of fucking nowhere, the Appalachian foothills.
Sort of. I mean, it's 160 miles south of Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Just pretty far, I guess. Like a
3-hour drive.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 hour drive. It's also 125 miles due east of Point Pleasant, West Virginia.
Uh-oh.
Mothman.
Oh.
Fucking Mothman.
Oh.
I got some Mothman stories on the Patreon this week.
Ooh.
Yeah, we got some new ones.
Hey guys, we do 2 episodes every week. If you go to patreon.com/whatifpodcast for $5 a month, you get 4 extra episodes and access to a back catalog of 80 Patreon episodes.
The 3 of you who are mad that we've taken 12 minutes to get to the story right now and are going to leave a salty review.
Hey.
That's fine.
Hey, we wish you well.
Ed and Fred May, which I love so much.
Eddie and Freddie.
That someone named their children Ed and Fred.
I want to clarify one thing really quickly about the location that we're in.
Oh, sure.
I guess more what I meant by in the middle of nowhere is that Flatwoods is like a tiny town in the foothills. Is not a big town. Is not near a big town in any real way.
No. The whole county is like 4 or 5 towns of under 1,000 people.
Yeah, we're in
some unincorporated things.
Braxton County, West Virginia.
That's the one.
And yeah, like Flatwoods, I think the population at the time was somewhere in the realm of like 300 to 350 people.
Yeah.
So we're talking like small town.
Yes.
Rural Appalachia.
They got one stoplight.
Right.
Ed and Fred May are 12 and 13 years old. They are with their friend Tommy Heyer, who is 10 years old, when they see a bright object go across the sky and land on the property of G. Bailey Fisher, who was a farmer in the area. Fisher Family Farms.
Go ahead.
The boys go and get Kathleen May, who is Ed and Fred's mother, along with Eugene Lemon, who is a member of the Virginia National Guard, but is also just 17 years old. I'm not exactly sure how that works.
I think rules were a little more flexible back then. You're a practice soldier at that point, so you're getting ready.
I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're not that far removed from World War II, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
we got to be ready.
Yeah, you can be any age.
Along with 2 other kids, Neil Nunley and Ronnie Shaver. And the 7 of them, Kathleen May being the only actual adult of the bunch.
Yes.
We've got 4 kids between age like 10 and 14, and then a 17-year-old, and then a I don't know, 40-ish year old.
We also got a dog.
Oh yeah,
There's a dog in the bunch.
yeah.
And I want to make one.
We don't know how old the dog was though.
We don't know how old the dog was. I do want to make one clarification about the light that they saw.
Sure.
Which was, so I listened to a really fascinating interview with Ivan Sanderson. Did you listen to Ivan's interview?
I did not.
Ivan Sanderson is a newspaper and magazine reporter and an investigator who he was interviewed on the radio in New York in 1953. And he had been sent from New York to West Virginia to investigate the case for True Magazine.
Okay.
So I listened to his whole interview retelling of his experience with the story. And one of the things that he said just before we get into them exploring the light was he does use the word that the light actually moved slowly, which I found interesting.
Wait, so this is, he did not witness the event. He's retelling based on accounts that he gathered.
Ivan went and interviewed all of the boys and Kathleen individually and in groups. He interviewed people in the town in general and then in like the surrounding areas to come back and write a piece for True Magazine.
So that's everyone unanimously said that, or some people said that, or
the impression,
we don't know?
The impression that I got, he talks about how unified the boys' stories were pretty much across the board. I say the boys because the boys were the only ones who saw the light. They were playing football in the field attached to the high school or the middle school in the area when they saw the light. It's around dusk. Did we say that? It's like 7 p.m.
Yeah, in September, so it's probably just starting to get dark. Maybe.
Yeah. So he comments on how remarkably similar all the boys' stories were. I don't have data on the specific detail, but he does say that some of them commented that it moved slowly between two hills and then passed behind a hill. So they didn't actually see it land. They said that it landed knowing that it had like kind of come down around the corner. And then one of the things he mentioned was that the boys had described the light as being pear-shaped, but being led by like the butt end of a pear, and that it was almost like blinking between red and orange. So those were some like more concrete details than I had heard in other locations. And I just thought it was interesting from a guy who talked to all those people like one-to-one. Again, it's a secondhand recounting of it, but...
Well, Ed and Fred are both still alive.
Yes.
And there is a 45-ish minute documentary on Amazon Prime, if you have Prime Video, that I think is just called Flatwoods Monster.
Did you watch it?
I did. And
I didn't get a chance
They
to.
are both interviewed in that.
Yeah.
So if you do want some more firsthand, although now 60-some years removed information, they provide that in that documentary.
Yeah.
It's pretty well done too.
Cool. But anyway, just some more details on like the light and kind of some stories around the light before we go chase that motherfucker down.
Yeah, so the boys decide that they're going to go find this light. So they go up to the top of a hill on the Fisher property, and they see this pulsing red light. Lemon said that he had a flashlight with him that he pointed in the direction of the light, which was now on the ground. Mm-hmm. And he saw a tall, quote, man-like figure with a round red face surrounded by a pointed hood-like shape.
Kathleen May referred to it as the shape of an ace of spades, or a spade in general. I should say.
No, I think but she specifically said like the playing card variety. Yeah. The descriptions are interesting.
Yeah.
In that they're all similar, sort of.
Yeah, so a couple more details on it.
And just before we get into that, these are sort of, as far as I can tell, a lot of what has been reported about this is like an amalgamation of a lot of different tellings of the story, which is why I was asking about what was the reporter's name?
Ivan Sanderson.
About Sanderson's version, whether it was him sort of like compiling all of these to tell one version, that has now kind of become like the pop culture version,
Sure.
or if it was taken from individual people's stories, because there are slight differences in the witnesses' accounts. One of the, it was actually Kathleen May, said that the figure had small claw-like hands. And she was the one that said that the head resembled the ace of spades.
Yeah.
She also described on the body of this thing folds as if there were fabric on either draped over it or affixed to whatever this thing was.
I think somewhere it's told as almost as if it were wearing like a velvet folded skirt of some kind.
Yeah. The bottom half of this creature is especially interesting to me because in the documentary, Flatwoods Monster documentary, both of the boys, Ed and Fred, who are now in their 70s, describe it as being mechanical. They did not believe that this was a living being.
Yeah.
They thought this was some sort of, one of them uses the word sentinel.
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
He says, quote, "My theory is that something landed up there," and he's standing in front of the hill where this happened. So he's pointing to the hill, and they sent a sentinel down here to where into the woods where the boys actually saw this creature or thing or owl or whatever.
Yep.
The other boy said, "I do not have a theory." Boy, whatever. I don't remember which one said which, but this is either Ed or Fred.
Yeah.
I do not have a theory. All I know is it was mechanical. When asked about, the question was, what do you think this thing was?
Yep.
So that varies from a lot of the other reports that are more commonly out there, or the sort of compiled version of this story that is popularly out there.
Right.
The two primary witnesses both believe that this thing was mechanical in some way, robotic or something.
In the interview with Ivan Sanderson, who again interviewed all these boys at the time when they were young, he does relay the sort of mechanical element of it and says he relates what they saw to a diving suit. He's like, how especially if you think about 1952 diving suits.
Odd that he would use, well, I guess 52 spacesuits weren't really a thing.
Not yet.
Yeah.
We're still too far away.
What a specific point in time.
Right? But he's talking about how the face was round, but had those kind of, like on those old timey diving suits, they had the kind of one flat pane of glass.
Yeah.
But more like two of those. But then some of those old diving suits had mechanical arms because you couldn't put metal on your arms and then walk underwater and actually be functional. So there was mechanics inside that helped you control something outside to be able to interact with the underwater element.
In his interview for this documentary, Fred May says that he thought of it, the face of this thing, as having portholes, he said.
Yeah.
So there was some sort of, he didn't say helmet or mask, but that's, I think, what he was getting at. That it was some sort of helmet or something, visor, and then there were portholes that were lit somehow, though. He said it was emitting light.
Yeah.
So either if it were a helmet, the inside of it was illuminated somehow, or some part of it was glowing, I guess.
Yeah, and this is one where the details get fuzzy because I've seen bright glowing red eyes, but I've also seen that the round portion of the face, or whatever you want to call it, head area was red, but that the porthole eyes were more of a soft, I think I even read one description that it was referred to as a dim torch, like a flashlight, like a dim flashlight.
So if we are thinking of this as some sort of helmet or a suit of some kind, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that it would be lit from the inside.
I mean,
because they weren't saying it was throwing light out in front of it, right? It's not like it's illuminating the area around it so that someone or something could see.
It was like light being emitted from it, I guess.
But why would you wouldn't light the inside of a helmet? That would be counterproductive if you're trying to see at night.
Yeah.
Assuming it's some sort of biological something in there.
Did you watch the new Netflix Lost in Space?
Some of it. I didn't finish it.
You know how they got like the little side eye lights or whatever?
Yeah, but
they're
that doesn't sound like what's being described here.
No,
it sounds
but-
like it was internal and it wasn't like projecting
Like
light.
light
It was
emanating.
like glowing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it was mechanical, then whatever it was wasn't necessarily having to see. So maybe you're seeing like electronic.
But then you wouldn't have the need for a helmet and a thing you could, like a porthole that you could see out of, you know?
Well, I mean,
That to me implies that it's a biological something.
yeah, unless you're talking like robot head with like robot camera eyes seeing
Sure.
through it or whatever.
What? I don't know if now's the time to get into it or not, but just like to have this in the context of this bigger conversation. This is one that I see this all the time in these types of stories. Like the technology being displayed seems just slightly ahead of the times.
Sure.
You know, like that, it seems very 50s sci-fi-y
Yeah.
to have a robotic thing with like a diving suit type of apparatus or with portholes or, you know, it's like, it's
Yeah.
what we know at the time, but it's like slightly more advanced.
Right.
And with a lot of the UFO stuff, you know, it's like, oh, it's a craft and it had beings inside of it, but it was different, or it
Right.
was like, it was silent, or it moved really fast.
Right.
Whereas it seems to me like truly alien tech would be incredibly different to the point of probably being unrecognizable as such to us. Why would tech that was developed at another part of the world, another part of the universe, on a totally different evolutionary timeline and scale and everything with different resources look like exactly what we have, but 10 years from now?
Sure.
That just always strikes me as odd and like makes me question what's actually going on with these stories.
Totally.
At least with any sort of like extraterrestrial element.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think it is a leap to necessarily go right to the extraterrestrial thing, though I know.
And I'm not saying that's what's happening here or even what people are implying is happening here.
Yeah.
But in these types of stories where it's unexplained / possibly extraterrestrial or even just paranormal,
It's a trope we encounter.
it seems very of this time and place in a way that it probably shouldn't be if it were truly paranormal or extraterrestrial or unexplainable, you know?
Sure. I get that. I definitely get that. I sometimes wonder, you know, and maybe this is kind of what you're getting at. But I sometimes wonder if, you know, if you have an experience that is unexplainable, for whatever reason, you have an experience that's unexplainable.
Yeah.
How much of your brain generates something that is familiar to you in your perception of that unexplainable experience to make it somehow palatable?
It's being filtered through not only your senses, which are limited, but also your own experience and
Yeah.
understanding.
It's that whole idea of there's a word for it where it's like we see a table, like if roots in a bush grow together to look like a table, we assign it the name of table, even though it's not a table that was like created by people. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Us as human beings assigning like
words or frameworks to things.
Yeah, I don't know the word for it, but
Even,
I know
you
what
know
you're
what I'm
saying.
getting at?
We want to find familiar things and we want to find patterns and we want to
especially in the face of things that are like patently unfamiliar and potentially terrifying. And
Right.
and like, you know, maybe now is a good time to say that to continue telling the story, upon encountering this being, whatever it is that we described, the kids dropped the flashlight and were like horrified and ran. One kid pissed his pants. Like it was a very traumatic moment for all of them.
Some pretty young kids too. I mean, you got a 10-year-old out there,
right? Climbing a mountain together, like going and exploring. And I was curious to know.
The oldest is a junior or senior in high school,
right? And I was curious to know, like, I wondered what the tenor of the exploration was, because I couldn't read anywhere if they were like,
oh shit,
yeah, is it a no shit moment, or is it like, right? But is it that, or is it more like, oh, what are we gonna find? Like, because
I'm sure it's both,
But if they were really scared, are you bringing children up there? Is that like a thing that you're actually going to do?
Who was bringing children though? It was children who saw it. It was children leading this charge,
right? But
I'm sure their mom was like, "Oh, sure, yeah, you saw a spaceship land in the woods. Sure, let's go look."
But they also, like, after the fact, after they came down super scared and nervous and told the story to the town, there were like multiple adult males in the town who got shotguns and went back up the mountain to like look for what these kids had run into.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I wonder like how serious their initial pursuit was, or if it was just like, oh, let's go see if a star fell. And then they're like, holy fuck, what the fuck? And then they got really scared, or if it was something where they were like actually in pursuit of something they thought was potentially dangerous. I just feel like you wouldn't bring 10-year-olds up there if they actually thought that there was something like dangerous they were going to uncover. I don't know.
But I don't understand. No one was bringing them up there. They were the ones going up there. They brought one adult. Kids
two,
were
right, because the service person and their mom.
17. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a junior in high school, probably.
I guess
17 in September.
He's just slightly more. I don't know.
I'm just saying it wasn't like adults saw this thing and then they're like, who we should bring with us? A fourth grader. A fourth grader saw something weird, and then like he and his fifth and sixth grader friends went to go investigate it.
That's real. But yeah, I guess to go back to kind of what you were saying about it always feels like slightly more developed than what's currently happening. I do wonder if in those moments of like sheer terror and seeing something that is disconcerting, but you're looking to assign some level of meaning to it, do we apply a version of something that we know that is slightly beyond what we know, and then does that become the version of it that we tell, because that's the way the brain makes it both palatable but also foreign?
To take a maybe slightly more woo-woo approach to the same question, it's one of the reasons that the interdimensional hypothesis for a lot of these things has always made some amount of sense to me.
Yeah.
And in like, this is something that's happening in this time and this location, if just like a few things along the way had gone differently.
Yeah.
Not that like the other side of the interdimensional explanation is like, what the fuck does that mean? Yeah. And what are other dimensions and how would that work? And there are no answers for that shit. But
right.
If something like that did exist, it seems like that would be along the lines of what you might see if those things crossed over.
Right.
Or like a lot of the stuff with like Skinwalker Ranch, where it's like, yeah, it was an animal, but it was weird.
But it was a weird animal.
It was like a wolf, but it was a weird wolf.
But
it was this
a
weird
dire wolf, if you will. Just kidding, I don't watch that show.
There was a guy there, but he was weird, and then he wasn't there.
Right.
And just like these things that are close to what we recognize and what we have in our universe.
Yep.
Or like the same thing with ghosts and poltergeist activity. It's like, why would a person just be hanging around your house moving stuff?
Right.
Like, well, because they're in their dimension, in their house, moving stuff.
Right.
I don't know.
There's a couple more.
What I'm trying to say is they saw an owl from a different dimension. And in that dimension, owls are scuba divers. Boom.
Big scuba divers.
That boy.
Damn, that boy big.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, man.
What do we got to shout out?
Shout outs.
What are we shouting about?
Hey, y'all, if you go to whatifpodcast.com/shout out for $50, we'll shout out anything you want. We'll shout out your mom for raising you right.
Yeah, ma.
Or we'll shout out your best friend for helping you with your math homework.
Yeah. Bill.
Oh, shout out your dog for being cute as fuck.
Yeah. Bill.
Dog. Yeah, dog. This week we got a shout out in from Alan from Florida. What up, Alan? Alan says, you ever listen to reggae and think, I wish this was good?
Jeez.
Check out Summerlong. It's a brand new day and new music. Come on, baby, and give them a listen. They could be your guilty pleasure. Formed in the Sunshine State, they will fill your need for getting rid of neggy vibes. Something about a teacher trying to fit all their songs in this, but I lost the point. Wait, what? Anyway, check them out on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, and all other streaming services, or go to summerlong.bandcamp.com. 3 dabs deep, bro.
We just do an ad read for White Guy Reggae on our show?
I don't know.
I think we did.
I have no idea. I just know that it's a band called Summerlong, and it came in from Allen in Florida. Hey, man.
At least it's not Sublime.
I knew you would say that, and you're right. You're right. Fine.
Okay. Back to the show.
Back to the show. We got a couple more details that I want to cover of it that I think I find interesting.
Yep. You think you find them interesting? Or
I think I find them interesting.
But you're not sure.
I think no. I think they're interesting. I find them interesting. I will be curious to know what you
and
or
you can too.
Other people want to think or say. If you want to tell us what you think, or say 612-246-4614. That's how you leave a voicemail. Hi, whatifpodcast.com. That's how you leave us an email.
With no regard for human life.
I just
every
figured
time
I
you
hadn't
plug the
say
Patreon.
Yeah. No, I just haven't told people how to get in touch with us recently, so there it is.
Sure.
The first thing that I find very interesting, Ivan Sanderson talks about this in his interview. It's also reported in a bunch of different locations. Also, there are photographs of it. You can see they asked the kids to draw their version. So let me rewind quickly. All of the people who participated in that evening, who saw both the landing as well as the creature, were interviewed pretty intensely, particularly Kathleen May, and it was Eugene Lemon was the 17-year-old National Guardsman. Being the 2 eldest and most, I think, looked at as maybe the most trustworthy.
Farthest from elementary school?
Yeah. People to kind of quiz about the evening's events. They got interviewed by a ton of different newspapers, a ton of radio stations, and then also some law enforcement as well, as we know by the Project Blue Book coverage of a case like this.
Yes.
But one thing that I found interesting, and again, like I said, Ivan talks about it in his interview, is that as all of these kids were being interviewed by all of these, different, both public and private groups, they were asked to draw a photo of what they saw. And you can actually see all of the photos of what the kids saw. It was like, do a
drawings, you're saying.
Drawings, like do a line drawing, and it almost looks like the same person tried to draw the same thing like 7 different ways.
Maybe
like,
they did.
Well, but they
subcontracted that shit.
Hey man, draw 7 creatures that look like the same creature but look different.
Ed and Fred were shit drawers, so they took it to Bill at school and they're like, hey man, can you draw me an outer space owl?
Not like that, Bill. God.
School sketch artist.
But they're very simple line drawings, but they all are like relatively similar and were drawn in isolation from each other. They all have a round face, kind of 2 eyes, tall shoulders, and then a kind of rounded back. I don't know what you call it, almost like a cape, the spade-like part that Kathleen talked about. What?
Just the woods in West Virginia in 1950s and weird tall people wearing hoods makes me nervous.
Oh, yeah. That's probably not good.
They found the Space Clan.
The Space Clan. Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Dude. Should that be our cartoon?
No.
The Sweary Boys take down the Space Clan? That sounds awesome.
You were saying? Sorry. I should have kept that one to myself.
No, you shouldn't have, because now I have an idea and I like it. Shelby.
No, please don't.
All right. So I think that's one interesting thing where
Also, just be clear, fuck the KKK.
yeah, clearly. One of the things I find interesting, actually, in this moment, I was reminded a lot of the I'm gonna fucking beef it right now.
Beef it, bud.
The Africa landing with the kids at the school, the aerial projects.
Yeah.
The aerial school landing where the kids had relatively consistent stories across multiple interviews.
Yes.
I felt the same way I felt about that story when I saw these, relatively unified drawings from these kids. So that was one thing that I thought was interesting. And maybe to clarify, I find it interesting because a lot of people speculated that a bunch of kids who were playing football were fucking around and said, what if we make a blah, 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 blah. This is in the time of flying saucers, the summer of flying saucers. They called the summer of 52 because there were so many saucer sightings in the United States. You're coming out of some of the...
Isn't that alone weird?
Which part?
That there were just a whole bunch of flying saucer reports one summer?
Yes, absolutely. Extremely.
Like, what's
happening
there?
I don't know. I find it very curious myself.
How'd they do that?
There's a book that I have not been able to dive into, but I ordered because I'm very curious about it. Because I'll spill this to you all. No,
Haven't been able to read it yet.
It's coming though. It looks pretty ridiculous.
You guys ready to listen to 250 episodes of an illiterate man doing a podcast?
Guys, the reason...
I'm sure some of you had your
suspicions about us. Guys, the reason this has been so incoherent for so long is because I've never read a word about anything we've talked about.
If it's not on YouTube, we can't learn it.
I'm gonna show Spencer the book cover so he could know what I mean by how wild this looks.
No, don't do it.
It's no, not scary wild, like, oh boy.
No, I just don't like when you show me things that the listeners can't see.
No,
I'll describe it in depth.
That's what I'm saying. I like to share it with you so you can describe it.
Okay.
This is a book cover from Frank C. Fascino Jr. And
I can't tell it looks like. Who was the headless horseman?
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a pumpkin head.
Yeah.
Wasn't
That's
that
the
like
artist.
a 90s horror movie or something. It's too far away and too small. I can't really see.
It's an artist rendition of the being with the kids running away, and the title is "The Braxton County Monster," updated and revised edition. The cover up of the Flatwoods Monster revealed with
a cover up revealed
with a foreword and epilogue by nuclear physicist Stanton T. Friedman.
Oh, that's my guy.
Yeah, buddy. So Frank
is uncovering the cover up.
Frank C. Fascino Jr. I listened to an interview with him that Richard Nolan did.
Dolan?
What'd I say?
Nolan?
Richard Dolan. Yeah.
Nolan Ryan?
Not Nolan Ryan.
Oh.
Sorry. Richard Dolan did with Frank Fascino.
We're a baseball podcast now.
About all the sports. About the Flatwoods Monster. And Frank Fascino has spent apparently a career dedicated to this one case.
Define career.
Like a life's passion of work.
Okay. A life's passion.
I don't...
One life unit of passion has been dedicated.
A full life's passion dedicated to this one case. And Frank, in that interview, talks a lot about the Summer of Saucers and how... in many storytellings of the Flatwoods Monster, it's looked at as this super isolated incident. And the argument that he makes is this story comes to us not just out of the passing of World War II, not just of the sort of early tremors of the Cold War, but also on the back end, we're in September, right? Of the Summer of Saucers, where I can't remember what agency it was, but an agency had more...
FDA.
Probably not. More saucer reports in its history, both before or after in the summer of 1952. Or more, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. More that year than ever before or ever again.
Got it.
Which is why they call it the Summer of Saucers.
Got it.
And so... to your question, that's weird. What's going on there?
Right.
I agree. B, I think it's interesting to look at a story like this where everyone's like, oh, it's some kids fucking around in the woods. Oh, they ran into an owl. Or what also the fuck was going on in the skies of the United States in 1952 that caused it to be called the Summer of Saucers because of the highest volume of reported flying saucer sightings or UFO sightings in the country in history.
The Flatwoods Monster documentary that's on Amazon Prime, directed by Seth Breedlove, kind of lays out a similar context.
Got it.
In that there were other UFO sightings both before and after. He talks to people from Flatwoods whose parents or relatives recalled seeing other similar creatures even before September of 52 in the same area, and that there was sort of an existing lore, which I guess you could look at either as supporting this as being a real event, or the flip side, supporting this being
a manufactured event because they already had this in their heads, and so whatever they saw was
there was some lore or mythology already in existence in this location and in this community.
Right.
But either way, this not being an isolated incident or an isolated story, at least, there is some greater context to this area.
Yeah, for sure.
And this time as well.
For sure. There was a couple additional details that I thought were interesting to the story itself that I wanted to get to. What?
I just got a text message that popped up on my computer.
Cool.
From my wife.
Cool.
That says, "Why does Ryan keep talking about the summer of sausages?"
Sweet. Phenomenal. We have not...
podcast is taking a strange turn. We are now just talking about summer sausage.
I mean, I think...
and baseball. They go great together.
They're hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
We've obviously not soundproofed the studio to a sufficient degree.
Ryan's just really loud.
I mean, I'm apparently not loud enough. She thinks I'm yelling about sausages.
Yeah, you're just loud and you enunciate poorly.
It's also true. A couple of those additional facts that I found interesting. Ivan's interview reports that in one situation, in the situation that we are talking about, the dog that was with the group actually ran up ahead of the group and went into, the way that he describes it is that there's this sort of shallow divot of like mist that is between the walking group and the light. Did you hear this?
Yeah, the mist part is odd to me, but we'll come back to that.
Did you hear the part that the dog ran into it and came back out and died?
Yeah. I also heard in the Flatwoods Monster documentary, both Ed and Fred May say that's a bunch of bullshit.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
They both said that like there are parts of this story and parts of their encounter specifically that have gotten exaggerated, and that is one of them.
Interesting.
That they did have a dog with them, but nothing happened to it.
That's cool. That's good to know because, you know, I'm hearing this Ivan Sanderson retelling, and I didn't watch the documentary that you watched, and
which Sanderson is also in, which is odd.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because he
odd that they I guess they showed both sides of whatever
of the creativity of some of these events. But he's only talking about it a year later, so I'm like, who had that detail then? And did he just come up with that out of nowhere? I mean,
and that's what I wonder too about talking to a lot of people in a relatively small community.
Yeah.
I'm sure they all had heard about this by the time he got there and was going around talking to people. And I'm sure a lot of people wanted to talk to a reporter from New York about this thing that happened in their town.
Yeah.
And how much of that information that you're getting, A, is firsthand information.
Right.
And B, is just like grossly exaggerated or totally fabricated because you're talking to a bunch of people who are just telling versions of a story that they heard from some kids in the neighborhood.
It's a game of telephone. Yeah.
Yeah. But with like kind of with an incentive to exaggerate because you might get quoted in a national paper.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's no way to actually fact check any of these things.
Yeah.
As far as anyone knows at that point.
The other detail that I thought was interesting was I read that there were reports of some weird smells from the kids.
Like the kids smelled bad?
Well, they were playing football in the summer in the Appalachian Mountains. They probably did smell bad.
Newsflash, stinky kids.
Stinky kids.
Take it to New York. These kids smell.
Put these stinky kids in isolation. Figure out where their stink's coming from. No good. Yeah, there we go. No, but that there was potentially the smell of like hot metal or like a hot chemically smell that they came up on. That's real. And even in the wait for it, the Flatwood Monster Museum, which is open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
I looked at
very normal business hours for a monster museum.
Some Google photos of that place, and one of their displays is a piece of wood from the tree that's this
where I was
monster
headed.
was originally sighted in.
Yeah, no. Not that the monster was
the midget. There was a midget in the tree.
Not that the monster was sighted in.
That's disrespectful on multiple levels.
It was sighted near it, and then it rotted and tipped over later. And they think
this tree was close to a monster once. Put it in the museum.
Yes, correct.
Then it fell down.
I'd like you to
give me your money and look at this wood.
I'd like you to be also very clear that they are only open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekends, and they are not open on Christmas, Christmas Eve, Easter, Thanksgiving, or New Year's Day.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray.
They do have special visiting hours, though, so if we wanted to fly to West Virginia and drive into the Appalachian foothills...
Oh, we got an update for the Patreon, by the way.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes, it is decided.
Oh, Jesus. The museum itself, yes, has a piece of wood that was near that tree, but also there was talk of there being other trees in the area that had the tops burned or the tips of them burned, or potentially crushed or crunched or tipped when the site, if you will, of where they think the light landed, was revisited over the coming days, because it was revisited multiple times. Obviously, the kids went up in the dark, but people went back with shotguns, and then more people went back to be like, hey, but what the fuck actually happened?
There's a light, shoot it.
Right.
There was maybe an Air Force investigation too, / a Project Blue Book investigation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you? Well, I don't have a whole lot more than that, honestly.
Yeah.
Could you find the actual Blue Book case file? Because I could not.
I could not either.
Okay.
But what I did find is, what's the guy's name? Oh, shit.
Edward Ruppelt.
That is not who I'm thinking of, but also yes.
You got any more clues for me instead of just a guy?
Hang on. I'm almost there.
Steve Nash.
No, not
Boris Dia.
Naming Pascal.
Raja Bell. Mari Stoudemire.
I'm thinking of one of the guys who was one of the first
Barbosa?
tellers of the Men in Black phenomenon.
Oh, Gray Barker.
Yes.
He didn't play for the 7 Seconds or Less Suns.
Barker said that that Air Force people who were trying to play themselves off as news reporters came to Flatwoods to interview people about the sighting.
You know who just kind of said a lot of stuff?
Gray Barker?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure.
He just went around saying stuff.
Yeah, no, for
as
sure.
far as I can tell.
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the only source, I don't give that any credibility.
I don't either. Ivan Sanderson says the Air Force interviewed the kids.
Okay.
Because I think at the
that's
time...
coming from the kids or their family probably?
Yeah.
Or we can semi-safely assume?
Yeah, I think at the time, because we were in a place of fear from World War II and fear from the rumblings of the Cold War, that if you did say, I saw something super fucked up in the sky and I think there was like a being from where it landed, the Air Force was like, yeah, we'd like to
at least go take a look.
We'd like to ask you about that. So, so Sanderson said that. I don't have like a Blue Book case file or anything like that related to it, but
yeah, I mean, this is the one that the owl explanation as we've referenced a few
Yeah.
times. This is the OG owl explanation.
Yes.
And I think it's usually credited to the Air Force / Project Blue Book.
Yep.
That the kids saw a combination of a meteor and a barn owl in a tree.
A combination of a meteor, a airplane, a blinking airplane warning light in the mountains of Appalachia, and a barn owl in a tree.
Okay.
Because that's the way they went from something flying down and landing to the blinking light pulsing off in the distance to the thing up in the tree, I guess.
To be honest, the owl explanation kind of makes sense to me.
Does it?
Well,
I kind of hate it. Go ahead. I want to hear why it makes it, or it could work for you.
Claw-like hands. Those are
Sure.
called talons.
Sure.
Owls, especially certain types of owls, are real big and real fucking weird looking. If you're not expecting to see a big ass owl, it will spook you good.
Sure.
They describe this creature gliding.
Towards them, yeah.
Yeah, you know what does that? Birds.
Big owls, yeah.
Birds be gliding.
Yeah.
Owls are known especially for being silent when they fly.
Yes.
The shape of this thing, kind of like the head shape and like the hooded sort of angled head, mostly works.
Yeah.
The fact that they originally saw it in a tree definitely works.
You know what I've never mistaken an owl for, though? Being 10 feet tall.
Yeah,
And like,
but that's the part to me that gets to like, who said that?
but
You know, because that's just mixed in with all these other reports.
But the kids maintained forever that it was like 7 to 10 feet tall. Like everyone maintained that portion of their story.
They're quoted somewhere saying that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
It was supposed to be like big and tall. I think Kathleen May specifically references some version of the height. And that to me is what always bugs me out is it's like, you know, from even the shortest distance, a pretty big owl is going to look small. It's going to have a little head with like little eyes next to each other. I mean, I've seen.
I just Googled the words "the biggest owl." Didn't we do this recently?
Put it on the list. The biggest owl.
This link is purple, so we've done this at some point before.
Because I was telling you about when I saw that owl up close.
With the body, yeah, I read this same wild ass opening line. With a body the size of a small child and the wingspan of up to 2 meters,
Sick.
the Blackiston's fish owl is the largest owl in the world. I mean, if you're telling me if you saw an owl with a wingspan of 6 feet, you wouldn't be freaked out? Because I sure as fuck would as a 32-year-old.
Yeah, no, I for sure would. And if I was 10, I would have for sure pissed my pants.
Yeah, that
Actually,
thing
at
is
32,
bigger
I'd
than-
probably piss my pants.
I mean, that thing is bigger than a 10-year-old child. A 10-year-old child does not have a 6-foot wingspan.
no, for sure. But still, I guess
Arm
I'm going like, where does the hood come from? Where does the red face come from? Where does the illuminated eyes come from? Where does the 7 to 10 feet tall come from? Like, I don't know. Like, I can kind of see a couple of those things maybe working, but
And that's
the whole combination of it seems a little goofy. And I think when you tack onto that, the Ed and Fred, retellings, I saw, a couple quotes from them where they're like, I don't give a shit if people believe me, but like, I know what they're very heavily in the camp of, I know what I saw.
yeah.
And like the owl explanation does not serve them, which I always
barn
find
owls
interesting.
do look kind of like aliens, though.
I mean,
Barn owls are fucking weird looking.
a lot of nature, I think, looks like
Nah,
a
though,
barn
man,
owl.
like look at this dude.
Yeah, no,
He's got a little sneaky alien face.
owls and octopi are for sure interplanetary. There's no question in my mind about
How
it.
far are we from Kelly Hopkinsville, Kentucky?
I don't know. I didn't look that up.
They had alien owls down there, bulletproof ones.
Bulletproof alien owls.
Bing.
Did they really ping them?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Pep,
didn't-
pep, pep, ping, ping, ping. That's how it went.
Oh, really?
Pep, pep, pep. So I'm shooting at the alien owls.
I like that.
Get the fuck out of my tree. Pep, pep, pep.
Ping, ping, ping. I like that. I
Owl
didn't know
said
that.
not today.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like it's one of those things where there's like so much to it, and yet I like it makes it hard for me to believe
but not enough at the same time.
Yeah. And I go like, could a story that's lived on this long and become this big and like a trope and a case, and like this Fisher dude has written multiple revised versions of books about the pilots that disappeared and the saucers that were seen in the West Virginia area leading up to this event and all this stuff. Could all of that be explained by kids seeing a meteor and an owl in a tree? It just feels so rudimentary that but then part of me goes like, and I think about this sometimes with like the UFO conversation. I go, is it a thing where in 1952, when you're 13, you've never seen a meteor before and you see a big one for the first time, and then you're freaked up running up a mountain with your friends and you all see a fucking 6-foot wingspan barn owl fly at you? Does that become a flying saucer and an alien, and then the story lives on until we're talking about it on a podcast 60 years later? Is that possible?
Yes, absolutely it is. For two reasons. Do you remember the first time you ever slept outdoors as a kid? And if so, do you remember all the wild ass thoughts that ran through your head?
There's a lot of wild ass thoughts that run through your head. I remember I was in Boy Scouts and I slept in a cabin.
No, I'm saying like outside, or like in a tent. Cabin is just a house.
Yeah, but like, I might be so city boy that I'm like, I don't know that I've ever actually slept in a tent outdoors. I guess I have.
Even just like growing up in the city, we would like in elementary school, it was fun. Like if you had a sleepover, like we're going to sleep in the backyard, like set up a tent. And even that shit.
I guess that's true.
At that age, at like 10, 11, 12, like there were 4 of us sleeping in a tent and a bat flew into the side of the tent and we thought the fucking world was ending.
Yeah.
Not to say like these kids didn't see anything or that they're lying or whatever, but like that part of it, that they saw something sort of weird or genuinely weird, but not from another planet weird.
Yeah.
And then it turned into this, is not crazy to me. And a big part of this that's concerning to me in terms of like how valid I think the something really weird happened here angle is.
Yeah.
In the Breedlove documentary, they interview a lot of people from living in Flatwoods now who basically say like, this story is good for this town.
Yeah, it's good business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including Fred May.
Oh, interesting.
He says at one point in the documentary, like, it's important to me that Flatwoods is on the map.
Interesting. So he wouldn't backtrack his story even if.
And it's the same thing we talk about with a lot of stories of this type, where like so often someone never changing their story is pointed to as a beacon of like truth, or like they can't be lying because they've said the same thing over and over again. Where in reality, like that could just as easily be like you've convinced yourself that is what happened.
Yeah.
Or you are now committed to telling this story this way because that is how it's been told.
Yeah.
And that's how people expect to hear it.
Yeah.
And now like people in your town that you still live in 60 years later make money off of this shit.
I found an article, John Gibson, who was a high school freshman at the time of the event, still lives in the town and has at this point sold over 1,000 12-inch tall ceramic green monster figurines in just the last 2 years of the time that this was written at $30 a piece.
Yeah.
Because there are that many people who on road trips or exploring Appalachia are now going to Flatwoods to see the Flatwoods monster or the Braxton County monster or get their pictures taken.
People are coming there to film and
like it's made it a destination.
So like, I don't know. It does seem plausible to me that something pretty explainable over 60 plus years can morph into something like this. Like that doesn't seem that far-fetched to me, honestly.
Yeah. In this same article that I actually just referenced, there's this really incredible quote. The article is called. The article is called "In 1952, the Flatwoods monster terrified 6 kids, a mom, a dog, and the nation." And the quote is,
"Fuck that dog. I hope he dies."
Yes.
Never liked that dog anyway.
History Channel author Dave Davidson said, "Fuck that dog. I hope he dies."
Hope that mist kills that dog.
No, the article says, "Spook stories sprout best when the seed lands in a bed fertile with anxiety, and that was 1952 Cold War America.
What a sentence.
A hothouse of anger, disillusionment, and anxieties made to order for conspiracy theorists, political demagogues, and tellers of suspenseful tales."
This guy's got a real gift.
Phenomenal paragraph, right? But like
what was his name? Dave Davidson?
No, I was just lying. I don't actually know who actually wrote this. Roy Wenzel wrote it. Actually, let me keep reading for a second. The May brothers' monster story hit just 3 years after the Soviet Union successfully tested an atomic bomb in 1949. The Air Force was scanning for bombers over our skies. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were awaiting execution for sending American nuclear weapons designs to the Soviets, selling hellfire to our mortal enemies. A political demagogue, Senator Joseph McCarthy of Wisconsin, had spent the previous 2 years stoking fears that communists had infiltrated not only the U.S. Department of State, but almost every industry and corner of the nation. And communists had killed thousands of American soldiers in Korea by 1952, including 4 youngsters 21 or younger from Braxton County, West Virginia, who died just months before the monster landed. One of those killed in action, U.S. Marine Private First Class Lantry R. Frame, age 20, had grown up in Sutton, only 6 miles away from the May boys in Flatwoods. Into that fertile American atmosphere of fear and death and demagoguery, Life dropped a bombshell headline, "Have we visitors from space?" And he's referencing the article that we referenced in last week's episode there, where they started telling flying saucer stories in Life magazine that helped legitimize the phenomenon. So he's building this trajectory of like, imagine all of the fearful things that are coming together, the national conversation that we're having around this stuff. Then you put 10-year-olds in the woods at night with a giant owl and a comet streaking through the sky. And yeah, I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you do get this this story that has an economic impact for being the thing that it is and not the thing that it might more probably be, as it was received in a time of fear and confusion and, you know, fear of technology and fear of other and all those things.
Maybe the owls saw the guys coming back with the shotguns, and they used their like Jedi mind tricks to convince everyone that it was a space alien instead, robot alien.
Hooty-hoo! Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here! Caw, motherfucker! Let's go! Fuck!
I think that should do her.
That might do it.
I think that'll do her.
Like we said, if you want to get an extra episode every week, just go to patreon.com/whatifpodcast and join the hundreds of folks over there who are getting some extra show.
We got dozens of listeners.
612-246-4614 if you want to leave us a voicemail. hi@whatifpodcast.com if you want to send us an email. We've also got merch at shop.whatifpodcast.com. You can get tees and posters and hoodies and mugs and hats and all kinds of fun shit over there. And we love you guys. Thanks for your patience for a couple days this week while we figured our lives out. And as always,
we ain't figured out shit.
Yeah, but we're working on it. As always, we'll see you next week.